There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures. That was the late great Gil Scott-Heron. The revolution will not be televised. Welcome to the May 2nd edition of Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play. Well, there's a caveat tonight. I'm having my first guest of the opposite sex. Her name is Jackie Sherry. She has made a bountiful living as a principal technology consultant, producer, screenwriter, and life activist. Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
Thank you, Bobby.
Now, she made me promise that we wouldn't go toe-to-toe and blow-to-blow. But be that as it may, I met Jackie vicariously through someone who will remain nameless, because I ain't going to hold that against her, and she can't hold it against me. Because this world is full of some slick people, particularly here in the city of Los Angeles. And the irony of that song, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, allows me to segue into the theme of tonight's show, and that is looking back while we move forward. Because indeed, the revolution was televised, worldwide, real time, 25 years ago. It actually happened on April the 29th. The city exploded into flames, and the level of disgust and outrage spilled into the streets of Los Angeles. And as a result of that, the city became scarred and marked physically to the extent that the damage exceeded billions of dollars. It was the costliest civil unrest in the history of the United States. The significance of that is this. There were several causes for that, one of which was the beating of Rodney King on television. And then there was an incident with the Korean grocer who killed this young black girl. And so there was a ferment already underway in the city of discontent. But there were some deeper problems related to that. Most of them were economic as well as cultural, because I was living in San Diego at the time. I was coming back and forth to Los Angeles because I had family here. And I was doing work as a consultant to the Black Contractors Association of San Diego. And I literally drove through the smoke and fire the day after, April 30th. And that was a eerie feeling, because once I crossed the LA County, Los Angeles County line, you could see the smoke. And it got deeper and thicker the closer I got to Los Angeles, because I'd already been working also here in LA, in Inglewood, with Mohammed Nasruddin, the late Mohammed Nasruddin, and Recycling Black Dollars. And so I was headed to his office. And by the time I got to his office, I was choking to death, man. I mean, the smoke was still that thick, the next day. And that was just the beginning of a very tense period in Los Angeles. The voice that you will be hearing in a couple of minutes, at that time, he was, when the riots occurred, I'm speaking of a man by the name of Bernard Kinsey, who will be with us very, very shortly via phone. He was running a successful business management consulting firm called KBK Enterprises. And before that, Bernard was the vice president of Xerox Corporation. At that time, he was arguably the most influential and powerful corporate executive of African descent in the United States. And I had the pleasure of knowing Bernard for a very long time. And without any further ado, because it is indeed a pleasure to have this brother on the phone, Bernard.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Bobby?
Welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner.
It's good to be here with you.
You know something about being country as a native of Florida. I'm going to take just a minute to kind of get the people up to speed to who you are. I had begun to talk about, while we were getting you on air, the fact that you had left KBK Enterprises. And the thing that's interesting, Bernard, about that is I remember seeing in the LA Times, once you had been appointed the co-chairman of Rebuild LA, and they made such a big deal about it, like you were supposed to be grateful, and your tart response was, look, I'm taking a massive pay cut.
Well, you know, at the time, you know, I thought I had the right skills and the right understanding. And this is, it's good to be on here with you, Bobby. You've been at, you know, being one of our good citizens for 25 years that we've known each other. So it's a real pleasure to know that you continue to do well and you continue to put your voice and narrative out there. But let me kind of give your viewers, your listeners, a little background. I've been in Los Angeles since February of 1967, a little over 50 years. I got here 18 months after the watch ride, and was really understood what happened there and what didn't happen in terms of rebuilding. So when I had an opportunity in 1992 with the uprising or riot, depending on
that's a whole nother show right there, bro.
But you know, I mean, you know, we you know, and I ain't mad at nobody. I mean, we have a lot of ways to say it. You know, I always used to say this: if you were a Korean, it was a riot. You lost all your businesses, and if you were black, then it was an uprising. You know what I mean? Because the fact of the matter is, we as black people, we lost less than 5 businesses in our whole conflagration that happened over that six nights. We had 1,072 buildings destroyed, $2 billion in property damage. 45, I think close to 50 people were killed, and just really changed the whole narrative in America about, you know, urban cities, and particularly a city like Los Angeles that nobody believed this could happen in. So, you know, having an opportunity to be right in the middle of it was something that I'll always, you know, be very fond of, because when this happened, I had the opportunity to really see this city in ways that most people have never seen it.
What made you take on the just unbelievable responsibility of being the co-chairman of Rebuild LA?
Well, Mayor Bradley asked me to do this, and Peter Uberoff, who was was the chairman at that time, and I basically told him I wouldn't do it unless I was co-chair. I didn't think that I wanted to start off in a subordinate relationship, and it turned out it was a good relationship. You know, Peter Uberoff, with all of his warts that we all have, did a lot of good stuff for, you know, our community, and it really showed what business, the community, and government can do when they all work together.
You know, Bernard, as you said a minute ago, I've known you for over 25 years. I met you when you were rocking the boat at Xerox and opening doors and creating opportunities for young African-American professionals within that corporate structure at an unprecedented rate. So I already knew what you were doing. What was your greatest challenge sitting in that seat as co-chair of Rebuilding at LA? Well,
one of the biggest challenges was to try and, you know, negotiate all of the different factions in the city. Latinos really thought that blacks were getting too much, and blacks thought, you know, whites were getting too much. And it was just that overall piece. And I saw it as a real opportunity to do some good, because what people don't realize, with the 1,072 buildings, there wasn't a supermarket or a gas station in, you know, a 23-mile area called South Los Angeles. So people were basically out of business in terms of services. So one of the things that Peter and I talked about, we said the best thing that we could do is to bring businesses into the community that didn't want to be in the community or had redlined the community. And one of the things I'm most proud of, but before I do that, I pull out some old data, but let me give your listeners a little idea of just some of the damage that night. Arco Station, 50 mobile oil stations were either damaged or destroyed. 2 Ralph supermarkets were destroyed. 50 Shell oil gas stations were destroyed. 2 Smart and Final, and 8 7-Eleven stores, and 19 Thrifty stores. Now you get up on that for a second. So when you really think about it, here we had over 200 businesses not owned by black folks, but guess what? Providing services that black folks really needed. Mm-hmm. And what I've always been a big proponent of, that there's some things that big business can do that small businesses can't do. And one of them is own grocery stores and gas stations and things like that. And when we went out, our first task was to put basic services back into South Los Angeles. And that little, 200 stores, of considerable expense, we got those businesses not to leave the community, but to stay in the community and put those businesses back there. And on top of that, over the next 6 to 8 months, and I did this one personally, we got 33 brand new 50,000 square foot supermarkets to build stores in South Los Angeles that had never been there before. Before the riots, there were only 5 supermarkets that we would call supermarkets. After the riots, we had over 38, 39 supermarkets. All of a sudden, when you get a supermarket, all of a sudden the prices go down because everybody does not have to buy from a corner liquor store. Nothing wrong with the liquor store, but you can't buy all of your goods at a liquor store or even a 7-Eleven. I mean, it's just more expensive. So what our community was trapped in was a retail syndrome that they could not get fresh produce, fresh meats, at good prices because there were not the stores there to deliver that. So what we did at Rebuild LA, the first being Vons supermarket, we put 10 Vons in, put 11 Ralphs, 10 Smart and Finals, and various other stores over the next 2 years. And I know that because I supervised every one of those in terms of them, getting building permits and hiring black folks as managers or Latinos as managers. So I'm real proud of what we were able to do with that.
So, Bernard, I have in studio with me a young sister by the name of Jackie Sherry. She's a principal technology consultant, and she's also a screenwriter and producer. And what's the next question we want to pose to Brother Kinsey?
We want to know what was your most significant achievement in relationship to the
rebuilding
LA?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I ticked off quite a few already.
Oh yeah, you have.
Absolutely, most definitely. It was quite impressive.
Well, but I think the thing that I'm probably most proud of, that with me there was somebody black at the table looking for the black community, looking after the black community. And I'll just give you an example. Before the riots, First AME is my church, Reverend Murray, who's a close family friend. But we got the first $1 million that First AME got came from Disney, and we arranged that. I'm talking about Rebuild LA. Mm-hmm. First AME went from a large church to a mega church because of Rebuild LA. And I'll tell you why. They went from basically not having a fame renaissance as you know it today to having, a business side that had over $66 million in assets at one point. And all of that came out of the ability of Rebuild LA to connect the dots. And here's what we used to tell people. Rebuild LA is the straw that stirs the drink. In other words, we weren't the glass and we weren't the drink, but if we didn't stir it, it didn't happen. For instance, when when businesses wanted to come into South Los Angeles, they didn't know who to talk to. I'll give you a good example. When Toyota called us right after the riots and said, we want to do something, what I used to tell them was, stick with your knitting. I said, if you're an automobile company, let's train some service people. So I called John Mack, who I was a former board member on the Urban League, and said, John, we have Toyota there. Toyota went with them, and they put in the service program that went on for 15 years and trained over 1,500 Latinos and black automobile mechanics that came directly from Rebuild LA. Marriott came to us and they wanted to know what they do. I said, we need people that know how to be chefs and short order cooks. You follow me? Honda came. I could just go on and on and on. Benjamin Moore, you name it. All of these businesses wanted to help, but they needed an entree. They needed someone that could speak the language of business and also translate it in the black community. And that's what we were able to do, you know, on many, many levels, even when some black people always still couldn't see, you know, the benefits. But, you know, sometimes and Bobby, you saw this.
You heard me laughing, Bernard.
It's almost like Obamacare is now. People talk about Obamacare until they find out what it is, and then they like it. And it's the same thing with Rebuild LA. Everybody used to talk about, be negative about Rebuild LA until Bernard Kinsey was in the room, and then they shut up. Because they knew that I would not tolerate it. I would not allow them to just spew out garbage. You follow me? Because they didn't have the facts. And I'm a guy, you know, FACT is still how I run my life.
Well, you know, Bernard, I would be remiss if I didn't share with this audience, and because of Jackie's reach around the world, there are people watching this show streaming live right now from parts of the world, in addition to some of the people that have followed me in various shows. Bernard Kinsey is someone that I not only admire, I wish that I could be a fraction of him in terms of his ability to transcend worlds. He played in the band at FAMU, so that'll tell you that the brother got some swing in him. Okay.
Yeah. But let me give you one. Matter of fact, Shirley, I'm real proud that Shirley and I in November gave the band $500,000.
Slow down now. That's breaking news right there. He didn't say $500,000. He said $500,000.
That's fantastic.
Go ahead, Bernard.
Because here's where I am. I mean, Shirley and I raised about $26 million over. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary in February, and since we came to California 50 years ago with $26 in a job, we've been all about to whom much is given, much is required, and a life of no regrets. And I'm really proud that we've been able to execute against our plan for the past 50 years. And part of that plan is to leave the door open and the ladder down. In other words, if we as black folks continue to work and help each other, we can get out of this mess. But most of the issues we have are that we still want to work for somebody rather than work for ourselves. And I believe until we change that model, and let me give you some examples. Right now in the black community in Leimert Park, Crenshaw, let me tell you, I know all of this area. I've lived there for 50 years, okay? Mm-hmm. You see the people owning businesses are people that are not from our community. And some of that is on racism, but a lot of it's on us.
Most of it.
You follow me? In terms of us deciding that was a way to do things. And most small businesses are tough jobs. You know, I mean, I formed KBK back in '88. You know, and sometimes it's not easy. You follow me? So, but if you want a paycheck, then you know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a certain amount every week, a month. But if you really want to, you know, see what you're good at, find something that you're passionate about. And I always say you'll never work a day in your life. And that's really what we have to be more about, be more entrepreneurial. The young lady that just asked the question. I'm really always excited to hear our young people deciding that they were going to go out and form a business, rather than, go out and, work for somebody. And nothing wrong with working for. I worked for Xerox for 20 years. I worked for Humble Oil Company for 5 years. But I knew that Humble Oil Company or Xerox would never have Kinsey in the name. So once you figure that out, then the question really is, when are you going to steal away? You're going to decide, when is the right time for you to move on. And the best thing I did was when I left Xerox in 1991 after being a vice president for 10 years. And I started earnestly, developing KBK. And we've just done some extraordinary things. And the reality is, as you grow and learn, you see new opportunities. And, one of the things that we've done over the past 10 years, which you may not be as aware of, but over the last 10 years, Shirley, Khalil, and I, our son, we have developed the Kinsey Collection. There's been in 24 cities worldwide. Over 6 million people have seen it. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of, because the narrative is how African Americans built this country. And the Kinsey Collection documents the accomplishments and achievements of African Americans from 1595 to the present in historical documents, books, manuscripts. From an artistic standpoint, two-dimensional and three-dimensional art, we document African American achievement from 1865. In other words, yes, black people were painting in 1865. And this history is so unknown. And we believe a lot of the reason why black people particularly, and white people, don't see us as valuable because we don't know our history. So what we've been doing for the last 10 years, all over the country, we just had the Kinsey Collection just come back from Hong Kong. We were at Hong Kong University for our first international show. We have an exhibit going on right now at Epcot called Rediscovering America from the Kinsey Collection. Check us out. Go on our website, thekinseycollection.com, thekinseycollection.com, and you'll be amazed at what we've been able to do by really featuring these unknown people that have done so much that nobody knows about.
Well, Bernard, that was actually the next question I was going to ask you. I want to step back for a minute just to take care of some unfinished business. When you were co-chair of Rebuild LA, two things happened that made me most proud of knowing you personally and also being a witness to what you were able to accomplish professionally. And that is, in addition to all of the major institutions that you did incredible support of, the Urban League, the NAACP, the Black Business Association, you came down in the root of the community and assisted the Marcus Garvey School. I was helping the school as a fundraiser, and I was able to call you up. Yeah. And without hesitation, this brother put us in the same mix of businesses that he supported that were of much larger size. And he accommodated the request that I made of him immediately. And that just made me realize that the brother is about helping people that are trying to help themselves. The other thing that you were able to do, Bernard, during your reign at Rebuild LA was to find a way to balance the responsibility of accommodating the needs of the people who had invested over $380 million into Rebuild LA, and at the same time being sensitive to the needs of the black community. It's not lost on me something you said a minute ago. Out of all of those businesses that were destroyed, there was only 5 black businesses. Yeah. So that was an incredible achievement to be able to take that position you were in and do something that Obama couldn't do. And that is look out for black folks, for real. And I got to salute you for that, man.
Well, thank you. The reality is that, I've always had both of my feet on the ground, and I really want to, I'm gonna leave this earth still trying to do more. And what I tell your audience is that everybody needs to try to do more. The first do more is to do more for yourself, because when you get your life working well, you'll be surprised how well you can help other people. I'll give you an example. In 1967, when I moved to Los Angeles, and I had 19 service stations, the first thing I did was to go and look for black service station dealers and owners. When I left 5 years later, we had 16 of the 19 service stations were black owned. Now let me put that in perspective. So here we are, 1967 to 1971. We got 16 black businesses. Every one of those businesses are employing 5 to 7 people. So you got another 100 people being employed. You follow me? Under these service stations. Now, some people say, well, they don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to get oil. They don't want to do all this. Well, I say you don't want to eat either. You know what I mean? Because you can't have it both ways.
Yes, sir.
In other words, and I remember some of the brothers that had the service station back in the 60s and early 70s. They were extraordinary. They were extraordinary. And really, that is, and this is my doctor calling here. Can I get this? And you hold one second.
Yeah. Please go ahead, man. I want to have you as long as I can get you. Okay. While Bernard is taking that call, I want to share a personal story with you about this amazing man. Back in the mid '90s, I went through a situation where my nephew took his own life. And I went into a tailspin. I didn't really give a damn about nothing or nobody. It just really put me on a bad track. And I got in trouble with the law. And I was facing a very serious charge. And my lawyer told me, he said, look, man, you need some letters from some people of substance, right? And I called Bernard. He didn't even ask me in any great detail what I had done. But I told him what I did. I said, man, I evaded the police, man. I snapped, man. They pulled me over for nothing, and I just boned out. And he said, man, that ain't no joke no more. I was facing 3 years in the penitentiary. First offense, but the law had changed. And so I told him what I was dealing with, and he said, what do you want me to do? I said, man, I need a letter, man. And he happened to be at the time honorary consul for the Central Republic of Africa. All right. So he said, Bobby, you write well. Put in your words why you should stay free and send it to me. And I'm going to sign it and send it back. So he did that for me. I mean, overnight. He sent it right back to me. I went to court, and I presented that letter to the judge, and he was getting ready to, send me away, right? He said, hold on. Is this an authentic letter right here? He said, I'll be back. He went into his chambers, and he verified that letter. And I went out the same door I came in instead of going in that other door that had some other doors behind it. I mean, that's just the kind of brother he was. And he did that non-judgmentally because I squared up with him, and he gave me a chance to get myself together. And I'll never forget that, and I'll always be grateful that Bernard is that kind of cat, as a person. And I'm sure that there's countless stories where he's helped other people in situations where things didn't necessarily go right in their life. And he was very instrumental in so many things that he never got credit for. And I want people to understand, when I started this show, it was about presenting models of possibility and best practices. And this particular man here is emblematic of why it is important to know what the possibilities are. Bernard has lived in the Pacific Palisades for many years, and most of the people who look like us, they get that far out there, you might see them on Sunday and maybe Saturday to get their hair cut. But he made it his business to stay rooted in the community in so many other ways. And he's helped a lot of people as a result of the fact that he came from a community in Florida where his father was a business person. And now he's got his son Khalil, immersed in the business. And his partnership with Shirley, like he said, they've been married for over 50 years. You see what I mean? And you ought to see what it looks like when a couple is still in love like boyfriend and girlfriend after 50 years because they are the quintessential couple. They really are. Just great people, very warm, very open. And I remember the first time I went to his home and he started showing me some of what now is the Kinsey collection. And it gave me chills to know that they had been disciplined enough financially to acquire enough wealth to make it their business to purchase legitimately, not in the black market, our history. Right. Because this man has letters that were signed by Malcolm X that he bought from someone who is in the business of securing those kind of things. He's got a letter from 1957 from Dr. Martin Luther King. These are authentic letters. He actually has chains that they use to enslave our people.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, Bernard, I was just sharing with them how being in your home before you started the Kinsey collection, I can bear witness to what you did with your excess.
Yeah.
And how you and Shirley have worked together so seamlessly for over 50 years, and that your relationship, it doesn't get any better than that, to have as your best friend a woman that you committed to in marriage, man. And,
our son Khalil, he has been working full time for the Kinsey collection the last 8 years. So, so he's going to take it on when I'm not here, which is even better, So, this thing called living is all about, plan your work and work your plan. And that's what it's all about. And if you get up every morning with that, as your principal objective, you'll be surprised how much you can achieve over a long period of time. And a lot of people are spending so much time trying what I call skipping, and what you can't skip through life. You got to go ahead and take the steps. You know what I mean? You have to take the steps, and you'll be surprised, what you can do, with your life. Here, young, brother from Florida coming out here with $26 and a job, no car, and it's just been amazing what we've been able to accomplish. But we did it the old-fashioned way. We worked for it. We saved our money. We invested. You follow me? We stayed true to ourselves. We kept both feet up on the ground. And we never, I always say we never chased the Joneses until we became the Joneses.
I tell you, Bernard, man, it's such a joy, man, 'cause I hadn't spoken to you until the other day. He just got back from France. What were you doing in France, just vacationing?
Well, we just, in April of last year, we just, I got all these sub-objectives, and one of them was to go to 100 countries. So last April, we went to our 100th country. And what we're doing now is just, we have a life. We travel about 100 days a year, and we enjoy each other. We have the time, resources, and we have the health to do it. So that's what we do.
That is so beautiful, Bernard. We've been able to keep you on the line an extra 5 minutes, and I do hope, Bernard, now that I've had a chance to introduce you to my audience, when certain subject matters come up, man, that I can call upon you for that wisdom and that perception of what it is that we're dealing with, the discernment of how we go from where we are right now to a better and brighter place. My last question to you would be, Bernard, as a race of people, you touched on this momentarily a minute ago, as we look back and move forward, what is it that we as a community, because we broadcast right here in Leimert Park on Crenshaw Boulevard, 4309 Crenshaw Boulevard. That's where we are. The building is owned by a brother, and I live in this community. What would you say is the most important thing we can do right now, given the fact that everybody else is buying up this property around us but us? What can we do to try to salvage some existence, some meaningful existence in South LA right now?
Well, I gave this some thought the other day. I don't know if you're going to be able to salvage this. The fact of the matter is that the black people that are selling at a good price because they want to do something else with their lives. There's nothing wrong with that. And if another black person is not there to buy that property, there's nothing wrong for somebody else to buy it if they have the money. Mm-hmm. So I think what we need as a community to get over this thing that is, quote, our community, nobody else can live there, nobody else can buy there, nobody else, because unless we control from a monetary standpoint, people are going to do what they want to do with their money. Someone that owns a house can sell it for what they want to sell it to, and they can sell it to who they want to sell it to. You follow me?
Yes.
And that's what's happening. So, I mean, this has been going on in Leimert Park and Crenshaw, you and I know, for the last 25, 30 years.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Okay? As black people have moved out of Watts and kept pushing west, you know, you just kept going, and now they, you know, in the 90s, right around the riots, people started moving to Moreno Valley and to San Bernardino.
Right.
And that's where a lot of our black community is now, because they could not afford houses here. So they moved out, or they were tired of gangs and some of the police violence. So they moved to places that they thought were better communities, which is what all of us should do. Okay? It's because there's nothing good or bad about it. It's what you and your family think, you know, is the best thing. But in doing that, other people that did not have the same need could purchase homes and so forth and so on. You go to Watts now, it's all black. I mean, it's all Latino.
Right.
It's been like that for 20 years.
Right.
I mean, what are you supposed to do about that? Unless you're going to buy all the community, buy it all up.
Right.
So I think we need to kind of let that scenario go and start thinking about how we can partner with other groups, partner with each other, and begin to think more and more about being business people that can control our lives. Because that's really the only thing we have control over is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, you know, I would just strongly recommend that, you know, we stop hating on other groups because they, quote, can buy something we can't buy, but figure out how they did it. Go get it.
It's so simple, it's hard.
Hey, Bernard, I actually have a question. You touched on something that was really dear to my heart about empowering people and people having their own businesses and entrepreneurship starting for people to get in that mindset.
Right.
What recommendation would you make to a lot of the callers that are listening now, how they can go in that direction? Because that's something I think that is very significant and that's needed.
Well, I've had a saying that I've been using for years, and it's the base: find a need and fill it. Find a need and fill it. If you can figure out something that other people need that somebody's not providing, that's your business. You follow me?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what we have to do is just start thinking about this thing a little differently instead of, you know, all running to the same business. You know, there are other ways to do it. And let's say it this way. Yes, there are opportunities out here for black people. But let's say it this way. As you probably know, owning your own business is not, I mean, it can be hell. But the fact of the matter is, you have to believe that what you're doing is that your heart is speaking through you. And if it is, then you'll be successful at it. If you're not, then you need to find something else, you know, and I'll go back to what I said earlier. If you find what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Okay? And I can absolutely say that because since we've been working on the Kinsey collection, exhibition, books, and lectures, I've never had more fun in my life because for the first time, I've been able to put everything that I've wanted to do. I mean, all of my marketing, business background, my intellectual curiosity, the educational teaching aspect, and put all that in one vehicle called the Kinsey Collection. And what we've been able to do is change people's lives. I mean, we've sold 55,000 hardback books. Can you imagine?
How many?
55,000.
Wow.
That's great.
Okay?
And it is a beautiful thing. Bernard, I want to ask you, and I'll be judicious with your time, to come back on my show at a time where we can get the most mileage out of, you know, your vast knowledge and expertise. But if you would, please close with the most famous quote you've ever delivered that I've heard. And that is the key to life, really. You say there's three pieces of it. Do you remember what that is?
Yeah. We were in Kathmandu, Nepal. we went to see Mount Everest as one of our to-dos. And a Buddhist monk basically said to us, you need three things for a successful life: something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to. And what was beautiful about this in 1982 was I had pen and paper. So I tell people, keep pen and paper, because you don't know when this thought is going to change your life. And this particular saying by this priest, this Buddhist monk, was just unbelievable. And it's so simple, it's hard. And most things that are simple in life are incredibly difficult because you have to distill it down to its essence, which means you have to distill yourself down to your essence. And once you do that, then God will speak to you, and your core and center will come alive, and you'll see your future.
Bernard Kinsey, man, thank you so much, brother, for taking out a chunk of your time this evening to once again inspire me and remind me of the impact that you've had on so many lives and the role you played unceremoniously in the rebuilding of the city we call Los Angeles, man. Thank you for coming by.
Let me know when you want to go back at it, okay?
All right, brother. I'm glad to hear that, brother, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Bernard Kinsey.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
All right, we'll be right back after a short pause.
Get up, stand up.
Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. I'm just telling you, that's the Bob Marley effect up in here this evening.
That's right.
You know, that just warms my heart to be able to reach out into this community and know that something that I was conditioned to believe is really true. That which you seek purely in your heart is also seeking you. Because I did get to know Bernard from a distance through a cousin of mine who worked at Xerox. And I saw how he was so attentive to the young people that was coming behind him. Because, you know, you've been in corporate America, and you know that a lot of times, particularly in our culture, once we get in that door, it slammed right behind us. And the culture of corporate America makes it hard for black people to be even friendly within the construct of that business. But he broke that up really quickly and let all the young people that was coming through Xerox at that time know, look, pay attention to what you're doing, handling your business, and from my perch, I'll do everything I can to make sure you get advanced, you know. And so that's how I met him, and then I got to socialize with him and to see that he wasn't no square brother, you know what I mean? Because like I say, he was in that marching 100 at FAMU, you know, and he's been very, very loyal to FAMU all these many years.
Right.
So with that part of the show taken care of, we've looked back. Now we want to advance to how do we, outside of the retrospect of 25 years, say, where are we right now, and what are the kind of things that we can do as we sit here right now in the heart of South Los Angeles, knowing that there's a broad world out there. So a little bit about what you do and how we came into a circle that we're trying to collaborate on some things together.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's totally relevant. I want to say, too, what was most significant, his story was phenomenal. The fact that he talked about people building their own businesses and becoming owners and not just wanting to work for a corporation. I think that's very, very, very significant. What I think is more significant is that it seems to be twofold. For instance, we have one issue where we have people that are in the crust that are suffering economic downsize. But we also have the opportunity to do some preventive work for the younger children coming up. So it's kind of like a two-edged sword of what we need to address for the economy as far as the people. And I'm going to say it again. One is because people have pretty much lost hope. That's kind of what I see in our society, especially with young minorities, particularly not just blacks, but you see it in Latinos and stuff like that, particularly here in this country and all around the world. It's not just pinpoint it to this particular city. So I'm glad people are listening from all around the world, because I think we have something to give them all. But I think it's really important to give those people hope. And there has to be an avenue to give the people hope, but simultaneously we have to do some preventive measures, because we talk about people becoming entrepreneurs and being owning businesses. A guy 30 years old may not have any idea of how to do that. You could have someone that could have a college education, but they're stuck paying their mortgage or their rent and don't have the free time to actually go out and try to start a business. So there are some caveats to some of these things, but there are some really good ways to address it. And as Bobby was saying, how we actually met was surrounding this kind of talk. He introduced me to Jim Brown's American, which is a life skills program. And immediately what I thought about is, wow, because I grew up in a large inner city, and that was something I didn't have. Thankful to my father that as I think I was probably in high school when he started teaching me how to balance a checkbook and things like that. But these are things that kids should be taught from the onset. You should be taught socialization. You should be taught who you are, not just what's in a book that may be subjective to your environment. So when you test, you may not test very well. So there are all kind of logistics of what can happen. So I think what's crucial is the social path, not sociopath. Let me make sure I can say something that I've had to happen before. Not sociopath. Not right. But the fact that we that's something I think is really needed. And I read the entire book, the manual for the instructor as well as the participant. The
facilitator's manual and the student
Jim
manual.
Brown, the football player and actor, phenomenal man. I read that and it just kind of made bells go off. I mean, I just got so motivated, and I was like, oh my God, because that's something that I was missing. And I mean, I went to school, I got a couple of degrees, I actually have 3, but my life still is not easy. And what he provided, I felt could have really helped me. I felt it could have helped me in a somewhat deprived education system, because there is, in fact, I have to put it out here, there's a difference in inner city education as opposed to suburbia. Not the same. I'll give you a personal example. Like I said, with me, I didn't know about how to balance a checkbook until I was in high school, and my dad taught me. Whereas my niece, who's in a very affluent school, they learned it in elementary school. So these are some of the balances and things that we need to really look at. And it was his program that really got that engine kind of going in me, that really motivated me and really brought out all the things and all the models of possibility that I could see that could really help people. And that's something that Bobby and I have been at for a little while, but it was actually birthed from American, from Jim Brown. And I really have to say that sincerely from my heart. I was that impressed with this program.
If you would, please explain what your vision is in terms of the applications of the life management skills curriculum and how it can be used to reach a massive worldwide audience in real time via technology.
Okay. Well, I came up with something really phenomenal. As I said, when I was so motivated and it did something, it made a switch go off in me. And my brain just started going. I'm a very creative person, and it just started going kind of crazy. And I started looking at the kids today, and I looked at technology, and I looked at video games, and I looked at how the classroom is becoming digital. How kids now have programs where they don't learn with hard copy books, they learn with soft copy books. And this is where we're going as a generation. And so I thought, and what we did is we looked at Jim Brown's program, and what we did is we put it, it's not a video game, but it's interactive, like a video game, but it's giving very good knowledge. It is a 100% teaching tool, but it's interactive, so it is stimulating to the young people and even older people. And it's just a really great work, and I'm hoping that we can bring that to you guys in the near future. You want to ask me a question?
Yeah, well, I wanted to kind of give them a little background in terms of how you arrived at a place where you could take the creative side that you possess and then utilize your technical skills to merge those two lanes. In other words, you say you are a principal technology consultant.
Right.
What does that actually mean to people that have no idea what that means?
What I do is I design computer systems. I've designed quite a few for major corporations around the world. I could name you a couple of them. I've designed a scheduling system for the state of California. I've worked in multiple industries. I've worked in telecom. I've worked in semiconductor, the little chips in like the, what's the video game? The chips are in the iPads, and it's a semiconductor. It's a little chip that makes.
Don't
things
look
work.
over here. I can barely turn my phone.
And Bobby told me keep this in layman's terms. I've worked for, Intel Corporation. You can go on their site to become a partner. That's something I've done. The Postal Service, which you don't know, 90% of their money doesn't come from your stamps. So when we think they're begging and keep going up on the stamps, that's really not. Their revenue is generated from bulk mailing. So I know we complain, they're always going up, but the actuality is that the majority of their revenue comes from bulk mailing. So I've designed their system called Postal One. I've done a lot of designing. I've done a lot of troubleshooting. Usually when I'm called, something's wrong. Because they get a lot of people and they just start putting the systems together, but I'm the kind of person that can draw the whole design out, and so we won't have those type of errors. So a lot of times I come in after the fact where they need a specialist like me, but life has changed a little bit where now they realize the importance of someone and they'll get us on the front end. What I want to say too is that it may sound really glorious. It pays extremely well. You can make a lot of money, but you actually have to know what you're worth. Because they will try to pay you a lot less. And I actually was fortunate to meet a lady when I lived on the East Coast that taught me how to make money for myself. She said, here, you're asking, I can throw some numbers. She said, first she said, your resume is 2 pages and you got all this stuff going on. And she said, you want to make a 6-digit salary? She said, you just got to lay it out there. And where traditionally they'll tell you, get a 2-page resume. Not the case if you're talking about 6-digit salaries, because these kind of careers can actually produce 6-digit incomes. But you have to know how to sell yourself. You have to know your worth, because they'll try to give you a lower amount when they know that there's other monies available. So we were talking about technology as far as a way of the future. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to kind of give my honest opinion on it. I think in corporate America there are a lot of issues. One thing I like about Maxine Waters is she said it's never a friendly place for black people, and it really isn't. And I stand here as a witness, and that's probably why I'm a consultant today, because it's not, especially when you get to my level, it's not a very friendly place to be. And in most cases, they just want me to come in, they'll pay me, and do what they need, and then that's kind of it. They'll go on without me. So I think it's real important that, yes, we learn technology, but I think what's most important is we have to learn our worth, and we have to learn entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship meaning that, for instance, something that Bobby and I are working on is to teach our children how to develop software. There's a guy, actually a black guy out of St. Louis, Missouri, that owns Worldwide Technology. It's not too many of those, but it's so many things that we can do. So I think we need to be proactive and putting that type of learning in the schools, putting a program like Jim Brown's, teaching kids entrepreneurship, and give it to them from so that's how they grow up, that's how they think. They can believe that this is possible, because it really is possible, but we're not teaching the kids. There are jobs where you can make a great living putting in elevators. It's just so much not being taught, which is why I really like the work that Bobby and I are doing, and I just think it's really a really great value.
Well, as we close out, Jackie, you will not be a stranger on my show, because there's a movement afoot, and it's rooted in models of possibility and best practices. I've added, because of her expertise, there's no we really in this conversation. What I bring is what I bring, and that is a mouthpiece and access to people that need to know her, and vice versa. Technology is not my thing, but she's in a position to help me understand how to take the generational stuff that I bring to the table and then convert it into an animation and a digital situation that communicates with a generation that don't know how to use a telephone or to take a pen and pencil and do anything with it. So she allows me to converge both of these generations. And in a few weeks down in Columbia, South Carolina, and we'll find a way to integrate the technology into the construction pieces that I'm dealing with.
Absolutely.
The National Association of Minority Contractors, under the unbelievable leadership of Wendell Stimley, will produce a workshop, seminar, symposium that encompasses 3 days, the 15th through the 17th of June. And during that period of time, we will assemble in such a way that we rally around the concepts of saving our cities and the business of sports and entertainment. Matter of fact, next week the show will be about saving our cities. So once again, I want to thank you guys for riding with me thus far, and if you would be so kind, if you find anything of value in the show this week or other shows that you've seen, tell others about it, because as Bernard said, I do this. He said, find something that you're passionate about. And I'm thankful that I've been able to live 62 years and be exposed to people like Bernard Kinsey, the Jim Browns, the Wendell Stimleys, the Jackie Sherrys, the poetesses of the world. And that's what I want to do, is to be a conduit, a vessel, someplace that you can come and get the kind of information that you can actually do something that will improve the quality of your life. So once again, as we close today, thank you, Jackie, for stopping by Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men do allow women to not play.
All right, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love
Okay,
it.
and so we're going to close out as usual with thank you for letting me be myself, and I hope to see you next week.
And thank you for having me, Bobby.
You're more than
and
welcome.
to my folks out there, I always send the love. Love you, love you, love you.
See how she just done took over. I was supposed to get the last word. This is my shit.
You said you're going to be good.
Okay, we'll see you next week, hopefully. We
All
out of
right.
here. Yeah.
All right, great.